The lottery is not about getting rich. It's about helping people, and it always has been. The lottery is what helped raise the Great Wall of China, build the roads of Rome, and today, in South Carolina, it's what generates millions of dollars each year for scholarships like the SC Hope, Life, and Palmetto Fellows. The South Carolina Education Lottery is investing in you. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou to learn more.
On Saturday, February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, it's the Pro Volleyball Federation's first All-Star match. The league's biggest stars will clash in a can't-miss event hosted in the Indy metro area, home of the Indy Ignite. Catch every serve, spike, and save live on CBS. Don't miss this historic showdown of volleyball's finest. The Pro Volleyball Federation All-Star Match on February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Be there.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It's over! Fly, Eagles, fly!
Celebrate the big win with the official licensed Super Bowl champions gear. Available now at NFLshop.com.
The Eagles win it! Super Bowl 59!
From jerseys to hats to must-have collectibles, we've got everything you need to rep your team with pride. Don't wait. These styles won't last. Shop now at NFLshop.com and gear up like a champion.
What's going on, everybody? Good morning. 9 to noon is in the air, and the opening tap will be in the air this evening at Target Center when the Minnesota Timberwolves host the Milwaukee Bucks in the penultimate game before the All-Star break. And joining us now is Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch, thanks to Second Harvest Heartland, toharvest.org, and Prize Picks. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good morning, PA.
Hey, the 30-ish or whatever hours you just spent in Cleveland, have you ever gone from the high you experienced Sunday night when your beloved Eagles won the Super Bowl to the frustration we saw on your face most of the night against the Cavs? I mean, what a 0 to 100 piece of emotion, right?
Sure was. Monday night was one of those nights that, unfortunately, you have from time to time in the league where just doesn't feel like anything goes right. I mean, I don't think I've ever been part of an 0-for-16 start. And, this year we've gotten off to some slow starts, but that takes the cake. And we've been playing way better offensively lately. I mean, I think our offense is top 5 in the league over the last run of games, but just couldn't get one to go down. It kind of set the tone for the night, and then it's catch up against a really good team, which is hard to do.
Well, with the good news portion of the equation, where'd you end up watching the game Sunday night in Cleveland? Was it comfortable?
Yeah, it was great. We kind of had a team watch party, and it was outstanding. Really, nice space, good food. I probably watched three quarters of the game there, and then watched the very last bit in my room.
Did you think the football team would just steamroll the champs the way they did? No. And isn't the Super Bowl in New Orleans? And I know you coached in New Orleans. It's one of my favorite cities in the country. But isn't the Super Bowl in New Orleans just a cool place to hold it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a thing. It might have been Sports Illustrated article. There was an article talking about how New Orleans is the spiritual home of the Super Bowl. I think going all the way back to maybe one of the early Super Bowls was held at Tulane. And then they built the Superdome, and they had promised to bring it there. The Superdome wasn't done, so they had to hold it at Tulane again. But just went through the history of the city and the relationship the city and the Super Bowl have. But it's an amazing event town, as you know. I was so jealous having lived there for 3 years, looking at everything going on during the Super Bowl. I wanted to be down there all week.
And with New Orleans, like when you drive around and get a chance to experience the culture and everything, the above ground cemeteries, they're creepy and also majestic, right?
Yeah, they're kind of enchanting. That's the word I always use. It's an extremely enchanting city, from its architecture to its mood to its people. It's an amazing place. It's truly American, and yet it's the best of America because it's a complete melting pot.
Hey, Chris, when you say the Cleveland Cavaliers are good or the best at making one big run and winning games, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it seems they have a knockout punch. They're a complete team. They have depth. They have great kind of their roster really complements itself. It's complete. They don't really have any weaknesses. They play both sides of the ball. So all that alone makes them tough. But when you watch them play, it seems like they have one kind of 15-0 run or 16-2 run or 18-2 run. And, for us, it was right out of the gate. They had a run on us. They put 20 points in the game, and we weren't able to kind of chip into it with any meaningful, work. But, and then good teams have that, good teams have that. They have a time in the game where they just kind of take it to another level, and they're really, really good on both sides of the ball. And then they're good enough everywhere else that they're not going to give up a 20-0 run.
I'm going to try to go Naismith on this next question. If I'm wrong, please take me deep. The Cavs dunk a lot. I mean, are a fair amount of their best plays like high post to guys down low who dunk, like tricky plays like that?
Yeah, well, they do a really good job of what we call the dunker spot, which is the area just off the paint down along the baseline. They find that player. The dunk, usually, someone like Rudy, a big guy down there, just kind of waiting, lurking, and they have the ability to get to the paint, draw the dunker defender up, and then just kind of shovel it to them. They find that dunker pass more than anyone else in the league.
Yeah, they have. So I mean, that probably was like a major part of the game plan Monday night, right?
Yeah, it always is with them. They have two bigs that are really good together. They play what we, big to big a lot, which means the bigs, kind of on the interior, which you don't see a lot anymore. We would do it a bit with Kat and Rudy last year. We do it a little bit with Julius and Rudy this year, but those guys are really, really good at it. They play an excellent interior passing team, and their bigs have really good chemistry. So that's why you see so many, shots in and around the basket, dunks included.
Hey, Chris, with tonight, Milwaukee's here. How about old Bobby Portis? I mean, seriously, decade in the league, total role guy. But three of the last four double-doubles with big rebounds and points and even assists. Bobby Portis, what's gotten into him?
Well, he's found a home. I mean, I think he's definitely found a home there. Of course, he's become a bit of a cult hero ever since their championship run. But he's been a good player since he's been in the league. Sometimes it takes you a little while to find a team that really appreciates you or really needs you and all the things that you can do. And, he's embraced his role coming off the bench, brings them instant scoring, instant energy, plays with a ton of passion, has a nose for the ball, got good size and physicality. He's a little bit of an old school big. Sometimes he can shoot the three, but he'll also back you down and shoot over you in the post. You don't see a ton of those at the four position anymore anyway. So he becomes a tough cover. He can make shots at all ranges. In between too, and he's a little like DeMar DeRozan. He's going to get to his spot. He's going to shoot it, and sometimes it doesn't feel like there's much you can do about it.
God, that was a terrific answer. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, coach of make that courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, 2harvest.org, and Prize Picks, Wolves and Bucks on KFAN tonight, 7:00. Likewise for tomorrow night with the OKC, both games on KFAN. With Milwaukee, Coach, do they play slower without Giannis, or what if anything changes?
Well, it's obviously a ton of Damian Lillard pick and roll, and they're going to try to. They'll probably try to play a little bit faster meaning that other guys will try to get involved in transition game. Where Giannis is really so destructive himself, pushing coast to coast. That's something that they're going to miss, but they will then obviously throw it up to others. And play with the pass a little bit more in transition.
So Damian Lillard, I know he's probable tonight with that hamstring, but when Dame is having big nights, what's happening? Is he just a streaky shooter, or like when he's on one, what's happening?
Well, there's a lot of things are happening when he's on one. He's getting to his left hand off pick and roll. That's kind of been. His he can shoot the step back. He can get downhill. He's the last couple of years he's really mastered getting to the free throw line at a high rate, and that's probably was not always the case early in his career. And then the most dangerous thing about Dame is he's one of the best closers in the league. So at the end of the game, he knows he's going to get to his spot. He knows he's going to be able to rise up, and at that point in time, he can. Again, he also can score it from all different ranges. You make the three over top you, he'll race you downhill, but he'll also take the mid-range shot and whatever the defense is giving him at that time.
So for you guys, Chris, 13th game tonight for second-year guy Jalen Clark. So that there's ample film on him and that Bulldog defense. Anything you're encouraging him to push through? And or what areas of improvement are you seeing, even with the defense or outside of the defense?
Yeah, I think I was worried about fouling. A lot of young guys come in, they foul unnecessarily, and particularly when you're guarding these marquee guys. You're under a different microscope than if you're just guarding somebody else. So. He's done a really good job of not fouling, playing without fouling. I think that's been impressive early on. On the offensive side of the ball, I've really liked how he's finished around the basket. He plays well off the catch. He doesn't force things when not there. A few games ago, he shot the ball really well from the three in the corner, and they closed him out pretty well in Cleveland, and he drove it, and he finished at the basket. So he's really playing within himself, which is a big key for young players.
Is the All-Star break hitting at a good time?
I think so. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of fatigue around the league for whatever reason. I think a lot of it has to do with how important all these games have been. Also has to do with just the intensity of the frequency of the schedule. The in-season tournament has really, put like an accordion in the middle of the schedule. Like, it just feels like these games come one after another with not a lot of time to rest or practice or anything like that. So, really since I would say early December, it's been a bit of an endurance test.
And mentally so for coaches, I would imagine. And like for you, coaching the All-Star game like last year, I mean, it's an absolute honor. But what about this break do you personally feel is good for you and your staff?
Yeah, for me personally, PA, I'm very much looking forward to it. I get a chance to unplug. What I like about the All-Star break is you can really get away. And then when you're on the verge of coming back, you start thinking, okay, what are the things that are most important for us to finish these last 20 games or 20 plus games? Because at that point in time, you're not reinventing yourself. You just really gotta, who you are, what you need to avoid, and what you need to kind of get better at or emphasize. And if you can nail those things coming out, like, you can really put on a bit of a run after the All-Star break. We did a number of years ago, and the year that we had PB here, that year where we made, I think at one point during that season we were 25-25 at the 50 game mark, and we finished 10 games above 500, 46 and 36. So we were able to really kind of drill down on who we were after the All-Star break.
And Patrick brought obviously a bulldog approach, but an energy that just not many bring when it comes to connectivity with players, coaches, and fans. Is it fair to say that guy now is Anthony Edwards? I mean, one of the best in the league, but he's also an energy guy.
Yeah, no doubt. When he's bringing energy like he can, it transforms our team for sure.
Now, with you talk about working on things and thinking about things, and rotations can be ever changing because of injuries and stuff like that. But Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid, what do you see when they are flowing well together offensively? I mean, they just seem to play well together.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's both of them are they're scorers first. And they create a lot of kind of gravity for each other. So it's Ant's ability to draw to and find Naz, and Naz's ability to pull somebody away from the paint will open up Ant's drives. They often play early together at the top of the floor, much in the way that Kat and Ant used to have that chemistry. Naz is definitely filled that role and that void for us there. And also, I would say, Ant and Naz don't play so much in pick and roll together. It's more just their driving kick game.
Time for two more.
Is working with or working on the ball sharing and offensive fluidity with Anthony and Julius playing together, is that still a work in progress and something you'll think about when you get some downtime?
Actually, I think that's one thing I've been really pleased with. I think Julius has done a great job of connecting with Ant early. I think he's gone out of his way to do that. We've mentioned several times throughout the season. I know I've done it in media availability, but I'm a firm believer that a lot of Anthony's three-point shooting, he came into the season looking to get up more threes and trust his three more, but he also has had a lot of really good looks created by Julius's, kind of kickouts or early dribble handoff actions in kind of at the end of transition. So they've definitely they've got a different kind of chemistry than the one we were just talking about with Naz and Ant, so which is good. It gives us some variation.
Want a quick 3-point shooting related trivia question I'm going to unfurl for somebody else later in the show?
Sure.
Anthony Edwards leads the NBA in 3-pointers made. He has 220. Who is second?
Ooh.
Now you got time. Now you got time to get to your phone. That's super special.
All right. No. I would say. Damian Lillard.
Malik Beasley.
Oh, wow.
How about that comes off the bench for the Pistons, just chucking him up and seems to be hitting a bunch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wish he made more when he was here.
All right, last one. That was brilliant. Playing fast off that Eagles win. All right, 3-2. Milwaukee, then OKC. Both games are on KFAN. Holmgren is back. Last two against Chet. He's averaged about 10 points per game. So the last two, you guys have done a good job against him. Those guys are tops in the league in fewest turnovers and creating turnovers. I mean, winning those categories is going to take somebody a long way, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the game for them. I mean, they've got a really good team. They're obviously MVP candidate in Shea, but the game comes down to turnovers. I mean, we were down there when we played them earlier in the season. We were up 12. I thought we were really controlling the game. Halftime comes. We start the third quarter in a pretty good manner. But we had a run of turnovers. I think we had 8 turnovers in the third quarter, which flipped the game, from up 10 to down 10 in a hurry. And that's it. They do very aggressive defense. They swarm. They're one of those defenses that foul you everywhere all the time. It's impossible to call all the fouls, so you just got to be strong. You got to take care of the ball, and you got to have a mindset to play through all the contact.
Yeah, especially with Lou Dort on Anthony. I mean, he's done a good job on Anthony more than he hasn't done a good job. That's a wonderful one-on-one matchup, don't you think?
It is. It's a good, he's noted for, being that guy, gets into you, gets under your skin, and a little bit of a flopper at times, but he definitely brings a physical approach. And, I think now with the new emphasis on more physicality in and around the ball, he's been able to benefit.
Enjoy the respite. You're playing very fast right now off that Eagles victory, and we'll call you in a couple of weeks. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thanks, PA. Take care.
Yep. See you, bud. That's Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, on the Fan this evening and tomorrow night against Milwaukee this evening. No Giannis for Milwaukee. Damian Lillard. Quite the scorer, quite the finisher. He's probable, but sounds like he'll play according to Finchy. And then OKC, perhaps the overall best in show tomorrow night at Target Center. Those games are going to be sweet. Max Fuller produces 9 to noon today, and I'm Paul Allen, courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Vikes Bites around the corner, followed by Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com. Then the Howlin' with the Homies duo is in studio. Parker Fox with the Golden Gophers basketball team. He'll stop by at about 10 o'clock. I'm Paul Allen. Max has the cash thing. Good morning, M-Well.
Buenos dias, PA. The Fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword money at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword money. Enter it now at KFAN.com.
On Saturday, February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, it's the Pro Volleyball Federation's first All-Star match. The league's biggest stars will clash in a can't-miss event hosted in the Indy metro area, home of the Indy Ignite. Catch every serve, spike, and save live on CBS. Don't miss this historic showdown of volleyball's finest. The Pro Volleyball Federation All-Star Match on February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Be there.
Grand in Your Hand is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. That's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. To enter keywords and learn more, head to KFAN.com.
I got some trivia. Got some NBA trivia for the homies coming up a little later. For the Howlin' with the Homies duo. That's the Wolves fan line show that we hope to hear game after 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 game in the postseason like we did last year. We just want to be howling with the homies. But in my quest to set a couple of things up in quasi producer like fashion, which would be out of my lane. I think when one of you nails one, this will be okay. That's right. All right, so that's Power Trip. But I mean, my buzzer sucks.
Yeah, that's not a great buzzer.
It's too long.
Yeah. It's not demeaning enough either.
Okay.
It's a little too high pitched.
Okay, well, why don't you do 9 to noon a favor? Between segments sometime on the snob page, find a better buzzer.
Got you.
One that's more demeaning. Parker, sorry. Maxwell Fuller. Erstwhile Froby Bryant. Erstwhile Humphrey Frogart. He would like to unfurl some Vikes Bites, green light, red light, flashlight, and absolutely are we in for it. It's not even acquiescing. Take it away.
Vikes Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed
Beef, you beefy baby. That's a beefy baby.
First couple of nibbles here will be from Mike Florio's conversation with Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell during Super Bowl weekend. Mike Florio had the privilege to talk to KOC following his Coach of the Year win. And KOC talked about how special it was, not just to win the award, but who it was that was giving it to him.
Last night I did not know Coach Belichick would be the one on stage handing the award and thinking 17 years ago this spring, the guy calls me and says, hey, welcome to the National Football League. You're a New England Patriot. And then to receive that award from him, the Coach of the Year award from the greatest coach of all time, Andy Reid, Dan Campbell, some of these great coaches in our league. I'm watching this and saying, can't believe I'm in the same even conversation as these guys. And too much is given, much is required. I better continue to improve and live up to what I believe is an organizational award, and we're all really proud of it for this year.
Yeah, that was from Radio Row, and Mike Florio with Chris Sims with Kevin O'Connell. Florio joins about 10 minutes from now, and we're going to get into some facets of that interview that he had with Kevin O'Connell, plus other things around the National Football League. But in watching that, you could just tell, Kevin was tired. I mean, the night before seemed to be a long night. His family, his parents were in town. He wins Coach of the Year. And he genuinely, you could tell, was surprised that the man who brought him into the league, the greatest coach of all time, at least most successful, Bill Belichick, gave him that award. So that was quite touching.
Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites.
Another nibble from that interview. Obviously, the central story going into the offseason for the Minnesota Vikings is the QB situation. J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold, and also Daniel Jones may be in the mix. We'll get to that in a second. But, of course, Florio had to ask Kevin O'Connell about the Darnold and McCarthy dynamic. And I believe it was Chris Sims, actually, who asked KOC,
Yep.
Are we officially closing the door on Darnold? Here's KOC's answer.
Sure. Yeah, we've got some time, and first and foremost, I think what Sam accomplished, and I loved seeing him last night and nominated for that Comeback Player of the Year award, because really his journey, and as well as anybody, the quarterback journey is unique. You rely on a lot of factors,
right,
more than just how well you throw it, more than just the plays you're running, and we just were so excited to bring Sam in. Didn't necessarily see 14 wins, but that just shows that how remarkable something can be when a guy comes in and does it every single day, earns the trust and the confidence of his teammates, and then you just go do it week in and week out. So that's where we know we are with Sam Darnold. He's a free agent, and I feel like I've had this conversation with you guys before about a player playing really well and earning the right to enter free agency. But there's some unique aspects of the conversation, and that's going to be the biggest thing, is that conversation, the dialogue, not only with Sam, his representatives, with Kwesi and Rob in our front office, but Sam knows how I feel about him, and he obviously knows what he's capable of doing in Minnesota. But now you talk about J.J. McCarthy, and nobody was more excited about bringing J.J. to Minnesota than me. Love everything about his makeup, the success he's had everywhere he's ever been, and he's healthy now. Right. He's going to have a great offseason. Right. So we know his journey is well underway in Minnesota, and we're really excited about it.
We love the Vikings!
Hey, so do we. Kevin laid out some crumbs there. KO crumbs is what we call them in the business, because he was talking about Sam Darnold, and there was some coach speak in there, and there's always going to be vulnerability and an openness to Kevin, kind of like Chris Finch. Just very, very, very blessed and privileged to have them 9 to noon to chat with them for all the years, because it's just so antithetical and different than a lot of coach conversations that you can have over the course of the years. And Florio and Sims experienced that there, where Kevin's throwing bouquets the way of Sam Darnold, and rightfully so. But then he says free agency, and he kind of goes down the road of what some conversations were like with Cousins last year before he left. And then, Kevin said it pretty much, paraphrasing, rubber meets road when he and the Minnesota Vikings representation talks to Sam and Sam's representation. So that crumb right there is we're going to talk for sure. And we dig the second-year Michigan kid. And we may have hit on something with the reclamation project, the newest one, who used to be with the New York Giants, but we're going to talk to Sam. All right. So that means, like, how much and how long. And I believe that conversation absolutely should be had, simply because it just over the course of time, when you do something for a first time, and whether it's a high level or not, the gifted, and Sam is gifted, and the smart are supposed to improve. So the thoughts of having the same quarterback for a second consecutive year, I mean, that's not a bad thought, because of what Sam gave last year. And then if they can, identify things that they feel in totality with the Vikings offense can be better. Well, then Sam, if he's part of that, then obviously things with him should get better because he's gifted. But then you get to the money portion of the equation, and what's that going to cost, and how long, and how much longer do we wait for McCarthy? What are we going to do with Jones? Brett Rippon, Kevin talked about him later. Kevin likes Brett Rippon and likes his improvement that he made during the course of the year. So there were some crumbs laid out there into the equation. I still feel that J.J. McCarthy and Daniel Jones in the equation with Sam Darnold, if you want to lay out a 1, 2, 3 right there. From a gut feeling standpoint, I just feel like the kid, J.J. McCarthy, is going to be given every opportunity to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings next year.
Vikes Bites! Funny that you mentioned Daniel Jones because Mike Florio also was thinking about Daniel Jones. And one thing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, we're all contemplating, will it be Darnold as QB1? Will it be McCarthy as QB1? Florio had an interesting question and asked KOC, is Daniel Jones in a position to have a Sam Darnold-like year in this Minnesota Vikings offense?
I absolutely loved having Daniel Jones in, and it was a big thing. It was critical for our team to bring Daniel in when we did. I thought he got a really nice kind of 2-3 weeks to decompress coming from New York and just kind of then slowly but surely start building up how he was going to play if called upon in the Minnesota Vikings offense. And what happened over the course of that time is I have a lot of confidence that Daniel could have a ton of success in our offense.
I'm with you.
I can't tell you how many times Justin or Jordan or one of these guys at a practice would say, that was an unbelievable throw.
Right.
This guy can really throw it, and the physical gifts and talent is all
big
there.
As he is.
Big, strong, athletic. He's smart.
Yeah.
That's as a quarterback guy to be able to walk in your quarterback room in December and see not only these three guys there, but a veteran in Nick Mullins. Brett Rippon's a really intriguing prospect as well. So as a quarterback guy, I was pretty damn excited about that. Now we just got to see what it's going to look like for 2025. How do we put the best possible team together around that said player is going to be critical.
We had a crumb at the end. Now we have to see what happens 2025. And the paraphrasing, putting the best possible team around that individual, which would be the quarterback. So the crumb there could be, yes, they have to be interested in certain offensive linemen via free agency, draft, or whatever. What's next plan for Aaron Jones? They adore Aaron Jones. The thing with Aaron is, and I really, really was fond of Aaron Jones. It's so infrequent that you get somebody new, you don't know them, and then you hear from like a fan base, that would be the Packers fan base, or people who have worked with Aaron Jones. And they lay out all of these accolades, and then it's all real. And then, like, the guy gets here, and he's exactly who everybody said, sombrero or not. So, but the thing with Aaron, and this started to take place in Green Bay, and really, personally speaking, I think it could be a problem for teams, is he'll get hurt during games. So it's like, it's not necessarily always a big sweat with Aaron up to a game, playing a game. It's like during the game. And the problem there is if you've worked all or a majority of the week with somebody doing certain things to amplify what is good, your offense, and then you lose them during the course of the game for patches, I just think that throws things off a little bit. The case in point would be the London game against the Jets. Like when he went out of that game, everything changed. They still won the game, but everything changed. So they're building, fortifying the village around the quarterback, which could be, I mean, if you're Daniel Jones, or think what Kevin O'Connell just said, he's like, Justin Jefferson would come over to me and be like, damn, he can really, really throw the ball. He can. Darnold could too when he came out of USC. Daniel Jones out of Duke, but they got beaten down in their situations. Darnold got the opportunity to sit back and reflect and kind of reconfigure his professional lot in life with the Niners. Came here, reclamation project, boom. He was in the MVP conversation for a little bit. If Daniel Jones plays for the Minnesota Vikings, that would be my full expectation for him, simply because that's how this coaching staff operates. It's what they've shown over the course of years they can do. Cousins, newest, best season he ever had in 2022. Middle of 2023, he was about set to surpass 22. Then you're getting out of Dobbs things that not many have gotten. Mullins is going for 400 and change at times. And then we saw what Darnold did last year. So when it comes to coaching quarterbacks and when it comes to raising quarterbacks, reclamation projects, kids or whatever, Kevin O'Connell and this staff are really, really good. So I'm excited to see what's next for Daniel Jones. Thank you very much for Vikes Bites. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, is around the corner on KFAN.
On Saturday, February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, it's the Pro Volleyball Federation's first All-Star match. The league's biggest stars will clash in a can't-miss event hosted in the Indy metro area, home of the Indy Ignite. Catch every serve, spike, and save live on CBS. Don't miss this historic showdown of volleyball's finest. The Pro Volleyball Federation All-Star Match on February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Be there.
PFT. Get ready, Minnesota. ZZ Top is bringing their legendary rock sound to the land of 10,000 lakes. Don't miss your chance to see these rock icons live at the Ledge Amphitheater on June 12th. Tickets are on sale right now, and you can get all the details at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Last night I did not know Coach Belichick would be the one on stage handing the award and thinking 17 years ago this spring, the guy calls me and says, hey, welcome to the National Football League. You're a New England Patriot. And then to receive that award from him, the Coach of the Year award from the greatest coach of all time, Andy Reid, Dan Campbell, some of these great coaches in our league. I'm watching this and saying, can't believe I'm in the same even conversation as these guys. And too much is given, much is required. I better continue to improve and live up to what I believe is an organizational award, and we're all really proud of it for this year.
That was Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell with Mike Florio and Chris Sims from New Orleans the day after winning NFL Coach of the Year. And Mike joins us now. Good morning. And what did you take away from your 12-ish minutes or so with Coach KO?
Well, it's funny. We were talking about this earlier because we played a clip of some of our favorite moments from the week that was, and it's amazing how little of it stays in the active memory because it's just one after another, 47 in all. But nothing that he said was surprising. Nothing really stood out. We had a nice conversation. We had a nice visit. He's right about earning that distinction of Coach of the Year. It followed the formula of coach of the team that surprised us the most, and the Vikings, who were regarded as having the worst overall talent compared to the other three teams in a very good division, ended up winning 14 regular season games. For me, the vote came down to Week 18 because I'm trying to break from this idea that we just check the box on the head coach of the team that surprised us the most and really look at the guy that did the best overall coaching job. And for Dan Campbell and the Lions to win the number one seed in the NFC, a conference that included the eventual Super Bowl winners, the Eagles, and with all those injuries on defense that I thought would hit a critical mass and keep them from being the one seed, I think that was a more impressive performance, and I allowed Week 18 to be the tiebreaker because the difference between number 1 and number 5 is very significant. But I can understand why the votes went to O'Connell. He deserved it. Campbell deserved it. It's a fine line. It's splitting hairs, but it shows what he's accomplished in his 3 years on the job. He's a great regular season coach. The next step in his overall growth, and I'm sure he would say this, is figuring out how to win in the postseason, how to master those moments, how to self-scout, how to scout aggressively the other team to find any and all weaknesses on 17 games of regular season film that can be exploited at the right time with the season on the line. Because what we saw a couple of years ago against the Giants, Ed Donatell's defense was completely and totally picked apart based upon those 17 weeks of film. And what we saw on the Monday night a week after the end of the regular season against the Rams was the Rams defense, presumably with the help of Sean McVay, who knows a thing or two about Kevin O'Connell, keeping the Vikings offense from doing the things that it had done all season long. So that's the next step. When January rolls around, expect to be in January all season long and be planning for January all season long. And don't just be team that says, man, we hope we can pull enough cards here to get to the playoffs. Expect you're going to be there, plan to be there, so when you do get there, you're in position to win games. I think that's the next step for a guy who's still very early in his overall coaching career.
Now, I watched this interview and some other interviews via Pro Football Talk's YouTube channel. All right, so that's where I found it because I'm getting some correspondence here, like where can I find that interview, stuff like that. I watched a lot of them at YouTube and Pro Football Talk. So that's where you got that. Now, and with the January piece that you laid out there, I thought that was really cool how you guys did that because you set up, things were good, fell apart at the end of the year, kind of like a trap door or slipped on a banana peel. And then Kevin went down the road. We wanted to get better in December. We went 5-0. Now the next thing is getting better in January. And Chris pushed, how do you do that? And I don't really, did you leave it with an answer? Like, how does one get better in January?
Well, it's the stuff I just said, and I frankly can't remember whether he said what I just said, obviously not word for word, but whether that message came through. I think it did because I don't remember thinking, man, this guy just doesn't get it. So I think he knows what he needs to do, and I think it's a mindset, it's an approach, and it requires, for as hard as coaches work week to week during the regular season, and you get to the end of the year and you're exhausted and you're worn out, and everyone is, that's where you have to muster the will to work even harder. You don't just coast into the postseason, you attack the postseason, and you basically adopt, and this is one of the reasons why I think this idea of assistant coaches interviewing during the postseason is necessarily a distraction because you already should be devoting every waking moment to anything and everything that you can do to improve your chances of winning the next game. Anything but sleep, eat, hygiene, and sometimes that goes out the window to a certain extent. Anything other than the absolute basic human necessities needs to be set aside, and there's a freedom in doing that. Last week for us, for example, it was all in, all the time, PFT, and largely PFT Live with 47 interviews, and I knew going in, even though I'm going to be in New Orleans for the week, it's all about the work. Now, you're able to go out to dinner at night, but you have to eat. But it was otherwise all day long, grind and grind and grind and grind, take some time to work after dinner, stay up late, get up early. You have to be fully, and there's no scoreboard for what we do. It's just that's what the job requires. And I think that what the entire coaching staff needs to understand, and again, this is why having interviews can be a disruption to that, every second, every minute, every hour when you are not sleeping or otherwise indisposed needs to be focused on a creative, efficient, and effective plan for spotting your own tendencies and tells and maybe zigging when they think you're going to zag, and spotting the other team's tendencies and tells and figuring out ways to break those and take advantage of those and take away the things that you know they do well because you have 17 games of film to see what they like to do, what they don't like to do, what's worked, what hasn't worked. It is a grind. It takes a ton of work, and everyone's got to grab an oar and row their ass off in synchronicity and make it work.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between winning the playoffs and not winning the playoffs. Now, there's also the possibility of having a roster that is across the board badasses. They can just show up and tell you what the play is and still kick your ass like the Eagles did. And I don't want to take anything away from the Eagles coaching staff, but let's face it, they have an all-star team. We were talking about this last week. Of the 22 offensive and defensive starting positions between the Eagles and the Chiefs, you start checking the boxes spot by spot, Eagles probably had the edge at 18 of the 22 spots, and we saw that play out. But everybody else has to come up with a damn good plan, and the Eagles still needed a good plan. They needed to come up with a strategy they had conviction in that they thought could work in light of what they've seen on film, and they had the physicality to pull off rushing 4 and dropping 7 and not blitzing a single time in the entire game. So it all comes down to knowing what you do well, knowing what you don't do well, knowing what the other team does well, what it doesn't do well, and coming up with a way to put the puzzle pieces together that will bend the outcome in your direction, one week after another. Those games don't get easy. There have been times when, and it's easy to get caught up in this, hey, playoffs, they've just got to go on a 4-game winning streak, right? We're on a 9-game winning streak, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of those games, each of those wins, infinitely harder than getting a win in the regular season.
PFT. Lastly here on the Vikings and KO, did you get the feeling the Vikings will work with Darnold's representation to play here next year, or is it all JJ and DJ, Daniel Jones, and that's the 1-2?
Well, one thing I remember is O'Connell conveying a sense of deja vu with us that a year earlier, and this was at the scouting combine, not at the Super Bowl, he had explained that Kirk Cousins had earned the right to become a free agent. He now says that Sam Darnold has earned the right to become a free agent. Embedded in that is a recognition that the Vikings have decided that if all else fails, they're not going to apply the franchise tag. So in their mind, he's not worth, at this point, given the other alternatives that they have available, he's not worth a $40 million investment on a one-year deal, which is fine. That's their prerogative, but they've made that decision. When you say a guy's earned the right to become a free agent, there are plenty of guys who earn the right to become free agents, but they get restricted by the franchise tag because that's one of the tools available to the owners under the collective bargaining agreement. So the Vikings have decided we're not going to franchise tag this guy, and I think the only way he would stay is if he goes out to the open market and the combination of financial offers plus perceived opportunity to not have another off-the-rails Jets-Panthers style train wreck like he might have with the Raiders, and that's the team that's been linked to him most aggressively. If he decides Vikings willing to offer X, Raiders are offering X plus something, do I just go back to Minnesota? You know, Kirk Cousins, if he hadn't had that $100 million fully guaranteed offer from Atlanta that conveyed multiple years of security, and it was just a 1 year at a time deal like the Vikings had offered, he might have stayed. So I think the Vikings have a number that they'll put on the table for Darnold, and that'll be that, and he can either take it or he can go somewhere else. But they have no concern about moving forward if that's what they have to do, because they're not going to overpay to keep a guy that's going to slow down the growth and development of the player they drafted to be not just a Band-Aid, but a long-term franchise quarterback that they have not had since number 10 was running around all over the place in the 60s and 70s.
Right. Of all these interviews, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Devon Weatherspoon, I found myself really enjoying that. Now, I've yet to watch Deion Sanders. Had you met Deion before that interview, and what'd you think of the chat?
I had only met him in passing a couple of years ago. I saw him at the Radio Row setup. I think Peter King interviewed him, and that was when he first articulated, which I think is an excellent point, that the Hall of Fame lets too many people in, and at a minimum there should be a higher level of Hall of Fame. And we actually call it the Deion Sanders upper room, and we talked to him about that, and he obviously loved the fact that we're on board with it. But I thought that he was Deion. And it was funny, I asked him at one point, you know, you're the guy that walks into the room, lights it up, always confident, everything's great. What makes you nervous? He said, nothing. And that's the way he is. He's very deliberate in everything he does, and he's very prepared for everything he does, and nothing ever makes him nervous. And it's just a great overall attitude. And he said one thing that I thought really resonated. He said he says a little prayer before he does an interview like that because he never knows who's watching or listening, and he wants to say whatever needs to be said to possibly help someone out there who hears something that might just be that thing, that one little thing that makes a difference. You'll never know. You'll never hear from the person, most likely. You won't know. They may not even know that it affected them in a positive way. So I just think that he's got an overall message that is one of positivity. And he very easily could have said he's not doing our interview. I've criticized him in the past. I was all over it back in August when he was refusing to answer questions from a reporter who worked for the local CBS affiliate because there was something he didn't like on CBSSports.com, and he's got a clause in his contract that lets him refuse any media availability he doesn't want to do with any specific individuals he doesn't want to talk to. And my point was, man, you're Deion Sanders. Like, come on.
Right.
You can stare down any of these people, and if they ask you a tough question, you answer it, and the answer, especially if your prayer is answered that you do before the session, it's going to be effective. Just trust in who you are, be yourself, and speak your truth, and far more often than not, it's going to work out. So I just got the sense that, number one, he realizes that I've said some things that I believe, and I'm not doing it out of, as he said himself, it's not out of hate, it's what I think our obligation is. It's the number one commitment to being authentic and not mincing words and not pulling punches and speaking our truth in a respectful way. And I think he respects that. And that made me feel good because I was surprised when I saw him on the list because I thought, well, if he's true to form, at least based on what I was criticizing him for last August, he'll say, no way in hell am I talking to that jerk. So I was glad he did it. And I think, it's one of those interviews where you come away from it thinking, man, you think you don't have a lot in common with someone, but when you talk to him for 10 minutes, you realize the similarities outweigh the differences. And I think that's a good approach for anyone. If you just take time to get to know someone, you'll find something about that person that you have in common. And when you feel that link, it makes you feel better about the person, and it lays the foundation to have a relationship. Not that he'll probably ever talk to me again, not that he'll waste his time with me, but I came away from it thinking that, this guy gets it. And I told him, I want you to coach in the NFL because I run a business that is based upon the level of interest in the NFL teams, and my business benefits if Deion Sanders is an NFL head coach.
Yes, sir. So do you and Chris and PFT, do you guys wheel back at the Combine and do it again?
Yes, and it's only 2 weeks away. And I'm not complaining about my job.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I know what you mean.
Because it's not a real job. But there are weeks when it feels like real work. And the challenge, as you know, is just being on all the time. Last Thursday, we went from 9 cornfields to 1 cornfields, one after another, without a break, without any break, without the ability to make the 50-foot walk to the men's room and, refund the morning coffee. I mean, it was a long and grueling day, and we're going to have several of those in Indianapolis that first day, that Tuesday. It's the coaches and GMs who make it into the media room, and then after that, the NFL is very good about making prospects available, and we like having the chance to talk to guys on their way in, get to know them, get to see them. There's different questions we ask that give us an insight on how good the class really is. One of the questions last year that we posed to all of the defensive players, who's the toughest guy you ever saw while you were playing college football? And all the SEC guys said without hesitation and with exclamation, Jaden Daniels, which was when I first got the idea this kid's going to be pretty good. If they're all saying that's the toughest guy I faced, he's there and then he's gone and you can't track him down and he's incredible, he can throw, he can run, then you get an idea, especially when you come from the SEC, that those skills are going to translate to a high level at the NFL. And lo and behold, it did.
So off the microphone in Indy, with it being the ultimate oxymoron in that it's legal tampering at that time, do you find yourself securing more free agency or draft-related steam while in Indianapolis?
Oh, it's a combination of both. I mean, away from the microphone, it's more free agency stuff because it's the ultimate tampering destination for one very important reason. There's no way anyone can prove anything because there's no phone records.
Right.
Every agent will meet with every team about either that team's current players who are represented by the agent or potential draft picks to give them more information about guys they're interested in. And along the way, they have conversations about guys who are going to become free agents elsewhere. And it's accepted. It's not disciplined. It's not even investigated. It's an open secret. And I remember years ago, a team executive saying to me, high-level team executive saying, we used to not do it at all until we realized we're the only ones who don't.
Right.
And we're at a competitive disadvantage because we don't do it. We'd better do it too. And they created the legal tampering period, 10, 12 years ago, to just acknowledge that there is tampering. So let's just build an advanced negotiating window into this. But the reality is, when you go to Indy, and I'm of the understanding that the tampering pre-Indy isn't as bad as it used to be, but when you go to Indy, what happens is you come away as the agent knowing which teams are going to be in play for your guy, and then when the phone starts ringing at noon Eastern, 11 cornfields on the first day of the negotiating period, you know who to expect, who's going to call, and you start finding out the numbers. And that's a crazy period of time because, if you're looking for a pass rusher and you're the team, you got your 5 targets. You call the first one and you say, here's our offer. I need to know in 5 minutes whether or not you're going to take it because I got to move on to number 2 or number 2 is going to be gone. So Bottom line is the foundation for those phone calls is laid at the Combine. And I think it's just a necessary part of the business. No one's going to get in trouble for it because everyone does it. You're only going to get in trouble for it if you come out and say it. But I remember 5 years ago, Bruce Arians said, we're going to call Tom Brady, which was a tampering violation. Blatant. And the league is going to look the other way on that stuff. I don't think the league likes to be in the position of telling the world that it has teams that break the rules. Because if you have enough teams that break the rules, sooner or later, somebody on the outside is going to realize we've got some corruption going on here that maybe we should investigate.
Hey, man, from what I've seen, and I have a bunch downloaded, I'm going to watch them coming up soon. You guys did wonderful work at the Super Bowl, man. I just really,
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I really enjoyed those interviews, and I know a lot of other people did too. All right.
47.
Unbelievable. Have a
47. Hey, our producers did a great job of lining up, and for the first time ever, like, everything was on time. People showed up. Nobody was late. Nobody was early. They didn't have a log jam. I mean, it was very seamless. It was very smooth. But I slept well when the week was over.
All right. Have a good week. Call you soon.
See you, Paul.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com.
PFT.
From PFT to P. Fox, who joins us in studio. Don't leave.
One lottery ticket makes a big difference for our state students. And when I say big, I mean bigger than jackpot big. Since 2002, South Carolina students have benefited from more than $6 billion in lottery-funded scholarships and grants, including the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. With every lottery play, you're supporting our students, and that adds up in a big way. That's why education is our middle name. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
On Saturday, February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, it's the Pro Volleyball Federation's first All-Star match. The league's biggest stars will clash in a can't-miss event hosted in the Indy metro area, home of the Indy Ignite. Catch every serve, spike, and save live on CBS. Don't miss this historic showdown of volleyball's finest. The Pro Volleyball Federation All-Star Match on February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Be there.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It's over! Fly, Eagles, fly!
Celebrate the big win with the official licensed Super Bowl champions gear. Available now at NFLShop.com.
The Eagles win it! Super Bowl 59!
From jerseys to hats to must-have collectibles, we've got everything you need to rep your team with pride. Don't wait. These styles won't last. Shop now at NFLShop.com and gear up like a champion.